Good evening. I apologize if just having some more technical difficulties. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or are watching for the very first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense, it is because here on this platform, we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions, but not everyone uses logic. So, for that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I also want to let everybody know that the subscriber mode has been enabled. That means that if you're not a subscriber, if you wish to enter a comment in the chat, you will need to become a subscriber. Now, I've already pinned the link, um, so anyone who wishes to join the panel can do so. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who have subscribed to the channel, whether it be from the beginning or just recently. Thank you very much for all the love and support that you have given me. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media. I really appreciate you all very much. And I want to give a huge shout out to all those who allow me to enter into your devices. So, what I'm going to ask you to do is the following. If you have not done so, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification to all. So, therefore, whenever I do uh, create content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. So, as you can see by the thumbnail, the topic for tonight is how to deal with pneumonias. And in a few minutes, I'm going to get into the subject as far as the reason why. But what we're going to do is before we get into that, we're going to get into in my words. Okay. Uh, there's been a great deal of chatter still in regards to um, Ebony K. Williams. You know, people are still upset regarding her remarks. Now, one thing I made it perfectly clear, okay, which is the following. She has the right to say whatever she wishes. She also has the right to her preferences. Okay, and to those who have been upset, um, please be mindful that you're not obligated to do so. Just don't follow her. It is that simple. Also, lately, there's been a lot of chatter here on TikTok and Instagram regarding two individuals, the Karens, okay, who continue to act up and try to gain an unfair advantage using their ethnicity. And we have seen it all too many times where these Karens acting up as far as people parking in public spaces, people calling the police just because of a person who's melanated into the area and things of that nature. And also, if anyone follow me on Instagram, there was a couple of accounts where they pure they were waiting and acting irrational, and which led to be arrested. Okay, um, they are part of the circus, and the best thing to do is just to try to avoid them as much as you can. Now, the other thing that has been discussed is how trashy they could be. Let me just state for the record, okay? Unfortunately, it is a couple of these ladies that becoming infamous on ladies in general. Okay, I think ladies, for the most part, are they're level-headed, they're educated, they carry themselves. Unfortunately, if you take a look at the social media, you would think otherwise. Okay, which goes to show that you what, you cannot base everything on social media. Okay, and the fact of the matter is, it's very easy to make judgments. Okay, but we don't know all the facts. So I would suggest, instead of being let's share what you see on TikTok, um, you do your own assessment based on the people that you know. So that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to get into the main topic. Okay, so as you can see by the thumbnail, the topic for tonight is how to deal with loneliness. And that's something that all of us will experience at certain points of our life. However, there are certain people that tend to be more prone to loneliness. Um, Among them is our elderly. Okay, and we're talking about people um, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s. Okay, and the reason why is, unfortunately, we have people um, who don't wish to be alone, but they are alone because of many reasons. Some is because you have family that don't visit them. You have family who's not able to visit them because of distance. So also you have been living in nursing homes and assisted living facilities, things of that nature. Also, let's keep it clear. Um, One of the consequences regarding the COVID-19 pandemic is that we were not able to gather with our family and friends out of fear of spreading COVID-19. Um, I know um, here in New York, where it seemed like the epicenter of the pandemic, where we dealt with so many extreme situations. Okay, first of all, um, we were not able to gather, so which led to people being isolated, people being lonely. Okay. Um, Also, let me just share with you my personal experiences. When COVID-19 began, which was in early 2020, um, my mother was still alive. Okay. Hey, Don Armando, good evening. Thank you very much for stopping by. So, of course, I was in between staying at my place and staying at my mother's place to make sure she was okay. Unfortunately, there were times where my mother was alone, so I would try to keep in close contact as much as possible to make sure that she was okay. And one of the things that my mother felt, she felt very alone. She felt neglected because she felt that her children um, have abandoned her. Yeah, yeah, Donna Mano, I can just imagine. And what made 2020 very extremely difficult, the January of that year, we lost our oldest sister because she died suffering from stage 4 lung cancer. And then I have to take my mom to the ER, and unfortunately, it was in the middle of COVID, so I could not accompany her to the ER, the emergency room, which meant that an elderly person was left alone in the emergency room with only the nursing and the medical staff to keep her company. So I could just imagine that. And then after my mother passed away, um, there was a time when I experienced loneliness for an extended period of time. Um, in fact, it was New Year's Eve that I actually spent alone. Um, the only thing I was able to do was uh, via via Zoom have contact with my nephews and nieces and whatnot, and it was a bittersweet experience. So the fact of the matter is, um, loneliness can be very depressing. Um, and sometimes we're loneliness because of our own decisions. Sometimes we're loneliness because of other circumstances beyond our control. So what I'm going to do is just give me, and I'm going to share some articles um, regarding um, loneliness. Just give me a moment. Yeah. Like I said, look, Don Armando, I'm not even going to pretend to understand what you went through, even though I lost my mother as well. And the reason why I say that, because everybody's situation is totally different. Okay. So that's the reason why I don't try to pretend that I understand. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share something from goodhousekeeping.com. Okay. And it's called, and the name of the article, here's what to do when you're feeling lonely according to experts. And it was updated July 15th, 2022, which states the following. If you're feeling isolated, the psychologist approved strategies can help you feel more connected. You can say the world is more connected than ever before. Friends, family, and strangers who live miles apart can communicate instantly thanks to the power of social media and the internet. And yet, why do so many of us still feel lonely? Researchers claim that the US is currently experiencing a loneliness epidemic, particularly in the midst of social isolation experienced during the prolonged COVID 19 pandemic. In fact, a 2021 study conducted by health insurer Cigna found that more than half of American adults, approximately 58%, are considered lonely by clinical standards. Furthermore, loneliness is closely linked with overall mental health. Adults with mental health issues are more than twice as likely they feel lonely, experience side effects as those with strong mental health. Doctors have also found that people who are lonely tend to have increased blood pressure, weaker immune systems, and more inflammation throughout the body. This turnout connectedness with other people is vital for our own survival. If you're wondering what to do when feeling lonely, here's what therapists, doctors, and researchers say are some of the best strategies to cope with loneliness. So let's see what's being said. Acknowledge and validate your feelings of loneliness. Telling other people or even admitting to yourself that you're lonely can feel scary, shameful, and self defeating. While expressing that feeling can be beginning of releasing it. We tend to stigmatize loneliness in the US, that stigma encourages us to avoid admitting when we're alone. Denying our loneliness only perpetuates it. So before we can recover, we have to be honest, at least to ourselves, about what we are experiencing. The next thing to do is to recognize that you're not alone in feeling lonely. If I am lonely, I remind myself just how basic lonely is. And I imagine being connected to all the lonely people out there. Sometimes I listen to Eleanor Rigby by the Beatles to Ham Renault, therapist, executive coach, and author of How to Be Alone and Together. Loneliness is a healthy emotion revealing places we yearn for connection. The next thing we can do is take stock of connections you already have. Sometimes when we are lonely, we can't see what's right in front of us. Many of us get tunnel vision when it comes to affection and intimacy, and we don't only sit neighbors with discounting others, say Professor Floyd. I might notice that my friends don't tell me they love me or don't like my social media posts, but I overlook the fact that they always volunteer to help when I am a home project to do. When people expand the definitions of affection and love include a wider range of behaviors, they often discover that they aren't deprived as they originally thought. The next thing is to reflect on your feelings of loneliness. Recognize that loneliness looks differently for people at different times of their lives, and that there are those who have many relationships but still feel something is missing. Ask yourself what loneliness looks like to you. It's important to differentiate between situational loneliness and chronic loneliness, says Bruno. Most people feel lonely from time to time, especially in today's individual, independent, value, more single than ever culture. However, if I'm feeling lonely more than frequently than usual, I get curious about the shift. Has something changed in my relationships leading to me to feel more disconnected? Have I been nurturing my current connections and creating opportunities to create new ones to make me feel seen? Am I intentionally, accidentally isolating myself? Whether our loneliness is brief or chronic, questions like these can help us to direct us to the best way to cope. Another thing we can do is to take time to relax and slow down. If you're feeling frequently busy, running around with your to-do list, or feel stressed out by all the meetings at work, it might be time to hit the brakes. Sometimes when people's schedules are back to back for too long, they start to disconnecting from themselves and other people, says Judith Orloff, MD, psychiatrist and author of Thriving as an Empath. They get overwhelmed from overworking and too much stimulation. So their practice is to just relax and do what their body needs. Perhaps relaxing for you could mean listening to music, listening, taking a bath, or just sitting with nothing to do nowhere to be. Reconnecting with self love and appreciation. You can use a long time to get back in touch with yourself. You have to be on your own best friend, says Dr. Olaf. I go to my sacred place and meditate. I take a few deep breaths, relax and ask and worry, fear and loneliness to live so I can just be but with myself. She recommends that those who are new to meditation practice can try sit for 3 minutes and focus on something they find pleasing, like the ocean or dolphins or simply things that they are grateful for. Focusing on what you're grateful for rather than what you don't have shifts the negative thinking, she says. Another thing is to spend time with nature. Being alone and strolling through nature can be meditative too, mostly because we're able to notice just how much life is truly out there beyond human life, and we are to all of it. Says Valerie Burke, PhD, licensed trauma psychologist and adjunct assistant professor at Columbia University. Getting your hands in the soil can have a healing effect as well. According to 2017 meta-analysis in preventive medicine reports, gardening can help symptoms of anxiety and depression, which are two conditions that can be associated with loneliness. If nothing else, the fresh air and company would energize you, says Helen DJ, licensed professional counselor and clinical director at Newport Healthcare. Another thing that we can do is before anonymous acts of kindness and recognize that kindness in others. Sometimes when you feel alone, you might feel like isolating yourself from the world, which only continues the cycle of loneliness. In that case, finding a group of friends to hang out with or dropping into a large social scene can feel like a lot. So why not consider starting small? Go out into the world and notice a smile. Excuse me. Smile from the stalker, says Dr. Olaf. Good evening, Irby. How are you doing tonight? Thank you very much for stopping by. The topic for tonight is how to deal with loneliness. So I'm just sharing some techniques to help us deal with the subject. Okay. Hold the door for somebody or do something nice for a stranger and then start to get the endorphins and the oxytocins going in your body. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone. It's what mothers have when they give birth. So oxytocin is important. If you're feeling a bit more extroverted, you might even try starting conversations. Out there and have a conversation face to face with your neighbor or friend. You'll grow certain respect, says Susan Pinker, psychologist and author of The Village Effect. Excuse me. This doesn't mean a close relationship. Research tells us that even weak bonds strengthen our immunity and our well-being. Another thing that could be done is give back to your neighbors and community. Another way to create new meaningful relationship can be going into immediate community to volunteer. The key is to focus on others rather than yourself, says Ruth Ever, PhD and director of the Osher Center for Integrative Medicine at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. One of the best things to do for loneliness is to begin build a better social network. Community, organization, religious groups, and social groups around shared interests provide wonderful ways to connect with others. Okay. Whoever who serves on the executive board as a member of the National Bar Health and Wellness Coaching explains that joining a group focused on charity work, such as like a sports team or book club, may provide an easy opportunity to socialize and you'll be working independent on the task at hand. You won't feel on the spot to put yourself out there and make new connections if you're already aligned with someone. Simply getting out there the hours and doing something selfless on its own is one of the best ways to better. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, before I let my guest in, let me just let everybody know that the views of those who appear on the panel may not necessarily reflect those of the host. Any attempt to copy the material without the host on the channel is prohibited. By appearing on the call, you waive your rights to image. And as I stated, some of the views that they may be considered offensive to some viewers. If you do not like the content, you can block the channel. Okay, so let's bring in.
Good evening.
Good evening, Don Armando. How are you doing tonight?
Well, I'm doing okay, just relaxing.
Okay. So the topic for tonight is how to deal with loneliness. So what are your thoughts on the subject?
Well, it's good because it depends on how you deal with loneliness. I ain't gonna front. When I had some lonely times in my life, I could actually say, even though it was not, I guess looking back at it wasn't, constructive in either way. But when I was lonely,
Mm-hmm.
this is before I met my wife, I used to just hit the bottle.
Yeah.
I'm I'm
Okay.
I'm not I'm not I'm not endorsing it. I'm just telling you my reality of what I did. Some other people they might just if they're lonely
Yeah.
they might just go outside or if they're or it depends on what their funds is about. They might just take a trip so they could get away from that place or something like that. I wish I could have done that, but
Mm-hmm.
it was it was like to the point that I wanted to travel, but when you're like in a rut and you're too familiar with stuff, sometimes you just don't want to
Yes.
get into you just want to you don't want to go to new places. And when I first got out of my rut is when I went to Philadelphia in 2014. I was like, okay, I like the city, and look at it now. How should I say? I'm 6 years in Philadelphia, and me personally, I think I'm just gonna stay in the state of Pennsylvania because I like the wildlife and such, but I like to travel other places as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the
Another
fact of the matter is, one of the reasons why people. So go ahead.
one thing I gotta say is that for anybody who's lonely or anything like that, it's better to take a cruise, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because when you do take a
Okay.
cruise, right, you get to meet new people, new experiences. It might be the person who works there. I mean, with me, I could actually say when I was in the cruise, I I had like meals and everything like that. That was that I made that I made from that I made
Mm-hmm.
acquaintances in the cruise. Were from the Philippines. I knew I knew certain things about their culture. I told them about I told them about mine, and we interact. So therefore, when certain people they'll be like, okay, this guy. certain people that might be impressed by knowledge. So one thing I gotta say is when you actually talk knowledgeable about another person's culture, they're like, wow, he knows about us. And then that could get a conversation going as well. That's one part to break loneliness. Be knowledgeable and read books. Because sometimes a person could be lonely and they're not educating themselves. Reading books could actually help with loneliness also.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, when we think of loneliness, we tend to automatically think about our elderly. I mean, we're talking about people in the 70s and 80s who are lonely because they might be a widow or a widower, or maybe they never got married, or maybe their family is living far away. So sometimes it's hard for people to visit them. Sometimes people are lonely, unfortunately, due to conflict. Okay, which is one thing I always agree that within family, if there's a conflict, if you can try to see if it can be resolved, because the fact of the matter is, each one of us, if we're fortunate, we're only going to be around here for about 70 to 80 years before we all passed away.
Right.
Yeah. And and also the elderly is not the only one that deal with loneliness. Sometimes men and women in their 40s or 50s deal with loneliness. Unfortunately, through divorce or through death, people find themselves lonely. Um, but there are many ways where you can find loneliness. Some of them has to do with um, doing random acts of kindness. Others just to be with community. Fortunately, we're able to gather in groups um, because um, COVID-19 is not as deadly as it was years ago.
Right.
So now you have mentioned that unfortunately your father passed away. When your father passed away, did you experience those feelings of loneliness as well?
You know, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't feel loneliness because I could actually say what helped me with the loneliness is that me and my wife we were just going out and everything like that. I'm not gonna front. I felt sad,
Mm,
but it was more of a peace because I knew that my dad was suffering with his ailments at time. But then there'll be like sometimes that I wish I could actually talk to him and such. But then I have to catch myself back just to say, like, yeah, I know that he's gone right now. So it was just it was I could say it was different because when my mom
yeah,
passed, it was I just I was I just got out of a relationship, and then after my mom passed, I was in a relationship, and that turned out to be a disaster. So I could actually say that it was a crazy time because I was actually trying to find myself, so to say. Now looking back at it.
Yeah. I just want, yeah, I just want to acknowledge that Keisha is in the chat. Good evening.
Good evening,
Now,
Kishel.
what I'm going to do is to pin the link, so anyone who wishes to join the panel can do so. And of course, if you don't feel understandable, because at this point, people are eating dinner, people putting away the dishes and whatnot, and having household chores. Yeah. So yeah,
Thank you, Kishel.
but yeah, the worst thing you can do, yeah, the worst thing you can do is to deny that you're feeling loneliness. Okay, and sometimes we try to put up this brave front uh, because of the fact that you know we don't want to lose face or what have you. So, but we're not doing any favors by not being honest with ourselves. Oh,
Yeah, I'm back. Just had to delete
okay.
myself or mute myself. Yo,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
just thought of something.
Okay.
Irby. Yeah, I was saying, Irby, do you have a logo yet? Because I was like, if you want one, I'll just make a quick one. It's not going to be fancy, but it's going to be something.
Hmm. Well, let me just. I mean, another thing we can do to deal with the loneliness is to get back to the community and the neighbors. And there's lots of things that you can do. Like I said, like if you're like a person that in your 60s and onwards, you can always participate in a senior citizen center where you get to spend time with your peers. Um, Now that's part of the thing. What I do when I'm not on vacation is I'll spend some time at the senior citizen center, because they have all sorts of activities. Um, Another thing is join a club to connect with like-minded people. Now, depending what you're interested, because there's also sorts of clubs. There's stamp collecting clubs, there is poetry clubs, there's chess clubs, there's checker clubs. The key is just to find out what you like to do and trying to find club for people who enjoy this activity. Your thoughts, Don Armando? Okay, I think the reason why he's muted because they're playing some music in the background, and just to make sure that I don't get hit with a light strike. Now, another thing we can do. Okay,
All right, I'm back.
yeah. No, I was just mentioning what some people can do to deal with loneliness is to try to find, if they have certain interests, trying to find a club, people who are interested in the same things that you do. And I just gave a couple of examples, like a book club, walking tours club, chess club, uh, something, anything where other people have similar interests.
Right.
Okay. Now, another thing we can do to deal with loneliness is accept all parts of yourself. Okay, which means just accept yourself for who you are. Sometimes one of the problems people have is they don't have a positive image of themselves, and some people they have low self-esteem.
I mean, that is true because sometimes you have a point that is like, okay, all the mistakes that you might have had, it's sometimes wear upon you that you be like, okay, this is irreversible. I will never be happy or whatsoever. Sometimes a person could actually, if they're lonely and everything like that, could actually talk to themselves into loneliness, and depression sometimes does not help that. And it depends on certain people. You have certain people like around this earth who are, how would I say, lone wolves, that they're isolated from people and such. And then certain people, if
Hmm.
they see that you're lonely or anything like that, instead of a person they're like, okay, you know, oh, this person is lonely and stuff like that. They'll try to play on the vulnerability of a lonely person. So you have to watch out for that also. I'm just saying of life experiences that I've seen
Yes.
and I personally experienced.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Because unfortunately, when you mix loneliness and a low self-esteem, unfortunately, people can become praised of people who will try to take advantage of such people.
I mean, yeah, that is New
Another
York
thing we
after.
can do to try to deal with loneliness is, go ahead.
I mean, if you actually look at it,
Yeah.
one thing, even though with loneliness and everything like that, we have to um we have to tell people who might be in this situation also is to is we have to beware on people who have vulture traits. You get what I'm trying to say? Because everything might be
Yeah.
all sweet and dandy, but then when you see certain stuff that does not fit your spirit or your psyche about a person, or there's stuff that, or there's manipulation tactics that people actually do because they actually studied psychology, 9 times out of 10, a person who might be a victim of a psychological attack just might be an experiment for a person that might have that knows psychology already, and see how they could use and see how they could manipulate another person. So a lot of people are how should I say, they're um they're very adept to that. So, and then on top of it,
Yeah.
they will not care anything in the world because you're just an experiment to them.
Hmm. Yep. That's true. Now, another thing we can do to deal with loneliness is express yourself through creative art. And so, examples like sketch, paint, knit. Um, these are the things that help our creative juices flowing. And it also can be form of therapy. I mean, if you let's say knitting a scarf, you're drawing a picture, you're sketching a picture, what have you, or if you are into photography, what it does is it gets your thought process and your imagination going.
Mm-hmm.
That you do is adopt a pet, usually like a dog or a cat, what have you. Um, the only thing is to be mindful of is you adopt a pet, whether it be a dog or a cat. You have to have some knowledge of the animal and make sure that the dog or the cat or any other pet is up to date with all their vaccinations and whatnot. Make sure that they're fed regularly, make sure they're clean regularly, and make sure that you clean their litter, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. In fact, many people use dogs as a therapy animal.
Yeah, I wish at that time when I was living in New York, my my apartment would have let me have a dog at the time, but they didn't. So hopefully, with new endeavors and everything like that, uh, maybe I might have to have more pets. I mean, I got a pit bull right now, so well, I'm saying like maybe in the future. So
Okay. Another thing we can do is reconnect with friends and spend quality time together. Spending time with others is vital to help you feel better about that. So if you feel isolated, have to lose in touch with friends, make it work effort to reconnect. Okay. So look. At times we get so busy in our daily lives that we lose contact with our friends and close associates. So it's a perfect opportunity to try to reach out and try to reconnect, so to speak.
yep.
Yeah.
Another thing I could actually say that
So,
could combat loneliness is going to the gym. Exercise will tell you the truth because sometimes you might be lonely, you might be exercising in the gym, and then depending on what exercise that you do, you could actually feel better and feel more confident about yourself.
yeah, that is true. That is very true. And sometimes you might meet a person, to work out with together
Hmm.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Now, another thing we can do to deal with loneliness is reevaluate your social media usage. Now, one thing that that can get cause problem is if we put too much emphasis on are we getting any likes or are we getting any reaction to any posts or things of that nature. I mean, social media can be a positive thing or a negative thing. The problem is that sometimes people get too focused on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and then what happens is they lose sight because it's like we're competing against other people.
I mean, yeah. I mean, when you actually put that aspect out of it, I'm like, yeah, I'll try to see if I was to use social media as a money tool. But as far as but as far as everything else, I just think it's organic. If people are feeling you, they will feel you. If not, it's not. It's not to the point that certain people they're like, oh yeah, I do this and I do that, or they think of a person living a lifestyle. When the fact is, it's like okay, it's like let's put it like this: before social media, everybody or anybody that had to have clout or some type of notoriety either had to use the word of mouth or in certain cases they'll have to do like go through a process in order to get notoriety. But as now, as social media is expanding, you have a lot of people who are actually that they could actually make many movies or many companies or whatsoever the case may be due to social media. So it could be a good avenue, it could be a bad avenue. It just depends on how far you're gonna go with it and how skillful you utilize social media. And as far as loneliness, yeah, certain people could actually get up with how many likes because they believe they're competing against somebody. But then you could use social media to actually meet people that you never thought that you would ever meet in your area or around the world.
Mhm.
I might say.
True. That is very that is very true. In fact, I remember a meme of a person um, getting up, and the first thing that person was interested in is how many likes was created. Um, and basically, it was set to the music of The Lion King. And another example is another meme. This was something that I found in Facebook, where the families gathered together, and then each of them making a comment regarding something that they posted, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and then one person was crying because they only had 10% on their phone. So it does that. Unfortunately, people can become obsessed with getting likes on social media.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like they lose their mind if no one likes their comment or the picture, what have you.
Talking about mental, I guess May. I guess today will be the end of mental health awareness. But there was a Dominican superstar that I guess she was singing star by the name of Anais. And I guess that she's gone through mental breakdowns or whatsoever the case may be. And it's actually displayed itself on a bad tip when it's on social media sites as Instagram or maybe Facebook. So it's gotten to the point that I guess she was in a homeless shelter or whatsoever the case may be. So she had
Hmm.
so there was a friend that saw what was wrong and intervened into it because it's to the point that I guess that she was in a marriage. Then I guess she got divorced or whatever, and I guess her mental issues started taking over, and certain people were just asking like what was wrong with her and whatsoever the case may be. But then sometimes social media can exacerbate uh, a mental issue that you might have to the point that you might just be having one of your fits or mental health issue, but yet now that's playing out on on live time. People will have their opinions without reading or knowing what that person goes through. So sometimes
Mm-hmm.
social media could actually send a person to unalive themselves. And I've heard a lot of stories about that.
Mm. Well, I just lost my train of thought. But when I see some of these YouTube creators, okay, and they're talking about the same thing over. Sometimes I think they're actually lonely and they're just trying to do anything to get attention.
Hmm.
Mm.
And then you have
I
some of
mean,
these content creators that they're so miserable in life that sometimes it shows. It actually shows within their speech on how they treat people. For example, you could actually debate something, and then that person will try to make a personal attack about you. So when that happens and everything like that, certain people will be like, okay, yeah, they're just fighting. Let's go and see. But then certain people are just you know, they're afraid, so therefore they link up with other miserable people, and that's why with miserable people, there's a lot of subcultures that actually are being formed right now as we speak, and that's why I call them
yeah.
subcultures because you have certain people that they're like, okay, this is a way of life or whatever. But then if you send that way of life towards people and things or that ideological thinking, it actually becomes a culture, believe it or not.
Hmm. Interesting. So, it is interesting indeed. Um, one thing I always believe that this anyone that's seriously thinking about doing a YouTube career, um, they need to be well mentally, okay? Because if you're not well mentally, I mean, anything, any word or any action that people will do, you're going to respond. Sometimes what you're doing is you're creating more harm for yourself than what your so-called haters can do.
Hmm.
Yeah. So let's see if I can find the definition. Just give me a moment. Definition of loneliness.
Hmm.
Okay. So, excuse me. Just give me a moment. Okay.
Yeah, forgive me, Don Jose. I'm having some audio issues. That's all.
Okay. No problem. Thank you very much for stopping by.
All right, anytime, Don Jose. Uh,
Take care. Have a good night. Now, the definition of loneliness is sadness because one has no friends or company, feelings of depression and loneliness. Okay, so that's one definition. The other one is okay. But the true meaning of loneliness is the following. Loneliness is the state of being alone and feeling sad about it. Your loneliness might lead you to sit home listening to depressing songs, or it could inspire you to go out and meet people. You can't be alone and enjoy every minute of it. But from time to time, most of us experience loneliness. So that is a pure definition of what loneliness is. And reason why is because again, one characteristic of this channel is that we discuss the facts. Okay, we don't just talk about things that we have no knowledge. We actually discuss the facts. Okay, so let me just. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to share briefly one more article, and then if no one else joins the panel, we'll wrap it up. So I came across a website called Mind, and it talks about how the ways that we can deal with loneliness, and basically it's more of a repetition, um, such as take it slow, make new connections, try peer support, try to open up, talking therapies, social care, be careful in comparing yourself to others, and look after yourself. So basically, what it is it's basically repeating what was said. Okay, so if anybody else wishes to join the panel, they can do so. If anyone else wishes to enter a comment, they can do so as well. Okay. Otherwise, what I'll do is start to wrap this up. Now, let me just share with you uh, what's going to be the topic for Friday's stream. Now, I'm doing something a little bit unusual, okay? Which is I'm actually doing a stream at 10 o'clock. I usually don't do streams that late. Mhm. But I figure it's a Friday, so therefore, let's see what happens. So the topic is if you play stupid games, you will win stupid prizes. Okay. Now let me explain to you why we're getting into this topic. Because unfortunately, we have seen people on social media make some of the most foolish, dumbest, idiotic um, actions or what have you. Okay. And it's been done by both male and female. Okay. So what we're gonna what I'm gonna try to do if my computer cooperates. I'm just gonna show some video clips from my Instagram account regarding people acting foolish or stupid. Okay. If for some reason I'm not able to do so, then I have to do the next best thing and play the audio. Okay. So I will be on Friday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Now, truthfully, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I'm just going to experiment, okay, and see if uh, if um, if a later stream can generate some views. Of course, I will always try to provide content. And for next week, I'm currently working on a stream regarding the myths regarding Latinas. So I'm just at this point I'm gathering material to share, and hopefully some of the Latinas will join the panel to share some of the misconceptions they have to deal with. But let me make this perfectly clear. As always, all are welcome to hop on the stream. Okay. It says that here, a couple of weeks ago, we debunked the myths regarding Black women. So next week, we're going to be dealing with how to debunk the myths regarding Latinas. Okay. And one of the misconceptions are that all are submissive. Some are, and some aren't. So I have not finalized the time. It'll probably be on a Tuesday. Most likely 8:30. I will discuss it, and I will pick the time when I'm doing Friday stream. Okay. And of course, at the meet, also I'll be thinking about what's going to be the theme for next season's issue of Uncommon Sense. As you can tell, every season is has a different theme. So what I'll probably do is on this weekend, I'll probably post something on my community tab and basically ask the audience, if there's a particular theme that they're interested in. Now I'll probably end the season, say July. And the reason why I'm doing that is because we're going into August, which means it will make it officially 2 years that I've been a YouTube creator. Okay, an active YouTube creator. But in any case, first of all, I just want to thank the fact that we had Irby, Donamando, and Keisha who appeared on the chat, and I thank Donamando for appearing on the panel. And of course, as always, all are welcome to enter their comments after the stream is over. Okay, let's try to keep it respectable. That's all I ask. But in any case, I am going to wrap this up, and I am thankful for all those who watched it live. I'm thankful to all those who will catch it on the playback. Okay, and sometimes I notice that usually there'll be a lot of people watching on the playback, or it will get a lot of views after the stream airs. So that being said, I'm going to wish all of you a very good night, and let's be good to each other. Okay? So this has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Wishing all of you a very good night. Take care and peace.
Be strong.